AFC Cup. He said, picture this, Chris. He said, families in the stands. My kids are in the stands. The players from my academy are in the stands. It's on TV.
Yeah.
He has a shot. He blazes it over the bar. Right, so the first time I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
He has another shot about 5 minutes later. Blazes it over the bar. What do I say to him?
You must have had a shout.
Yeah.
Yeah, a proper one.
If you've got kids in the car, put the earphone or turn the volume down.
Welcome to another edition of Across the Line. On this episode, we ask Chris Greatwich anything. And there's been a lot of people reaching out over the Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram to ask their questions, and we get an opportunity to really lay out a lot of groundwork on Chris, his background on coaching, his thoughts on youth development, and his assessment on how the game is currently in the Philippines. It's kind of a long episode, so we have to cut it up into 2 parts, but we do hope that you enjoy it. All right, so if you like the podcast, if you like the content, definitely do subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to another edition of Across the Line. On today's episode, we are going to focus in on the great man that is Chris Greatwich. He's got a lot of hats that he wears in the football industry here in the Philippines. And today we're going to get an opportunity to see inside your mind. You know, there's obviously the youth director of Kaya Academy. Mm-hmm. You were a footballing legend as a player, right? For the national team, played for Kaya for a long time, mm-hmm. captained the side. So club football, national team football. You coached the team as an assistant in the Asian Cup, which is the highest level that the country has coached. This is the senior team of the Philippines. Mm-hmm. So as a coach, as a player, as a youth director, we're going to get a perspective, hopefully, on all 3 of the hats that you wear for the Philippine football.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, we put the post out yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah.
You can ask me anything. Yeah. We've had all manner of questions come through. I've had a little scan of some of the questions that were put forward. So I think you have a couple of your own.
Yeah.
And I'm all ears. I'm ready to listen to what the listeners and the viewers want answered, and I'll do my best to give them some insight.
Quite excited about this. This is to just come back on the show from the trip to Malaysia for the AFC Cup.
Yeah, why don't you explain to everyone where you've been?
Yeah, well, the Kaya qualified for the Asian Cup, for the AFC Cup, not in the best possible manner, in not winning any titles, not winning any trophies, but being best loser in the Philippines. It turns out we'll get you a prize to go to the AFC Cup. So alongside Ceres Negros, we were there as the Philippine representatives, and every year they have a bit of a workshop prior to the draw. So a day before, they'll teach you about media matters, legal matters, which if you've been to this workshop before, it's largely the same.
Right.
So not too eventful there, but afterwards you get into a draw, and it's going to be a tough year for Kaya. You know, get drawn into a group with Tampines Rovers, which is the second in the S League. You've got Shan United, champions of Myanmar, tough squad. Yeah. And to go up against who is the third one? We've got Indonesian team. Yeah. PSM Makassar.
Yeah. So judging for the draw, is that the confirmed lineup now? I think there was a couple that were slash somebody else.
That's right. For Shan United and for Tampines, they qualified for the preliminary round of the Champions League. It's a sort of a situation where if they get knocked out of the preliminary, they'll drop back into the AFC Cup. Given that they're going to be playing teams from Japan, Thailand, and Australia.
It's going to be quite a hard path for them, I would imagine. So
it's odds on are most likely that they're going to drop back into the AFC Cup. So that's what's in for 2020, and it's an exciting time.
What are your thoughts about the draw? Exciting trips there?
I think, I'm excited about Myanmar. I've never been.
No?
Never been to Myanmar. Okay. So I hear some good things about that place, and I know that Shan United is a very tough team to play, so it should be interesting. It's a third trip to Singapore for Kaya, so it's a very familiar place, but it's a third different opponent.
Different one, because obviously we've had Balestier in my year. Last year you had
home,
and then they were reigning champions at the time, and then had a complete demise.
A disaster.
Yeah, demise from the previous campaign. So it'd be interesting to see how. I mean, Tampines have always been
in and around.
Sort of powerhouse really from that league. So it'd be interesting to see what sort of outfit they are next season.
100%. Especially with Kaya going through a bit of a rebuild after, failing to hit the heights that you were hoping for with that squad. A lot of players with age already. So it's going to be interesting to see how things transpire.
I'm quite interested to see how the Indonesian game goes if that ends up coming to fruition, because there was a little bit of bad blood.
Yeah, Jalso had a kick.
Yeah, and I never had so many notifications on our academy page than I did shortly afterwards. Yeah, we had tons of abuse.
Even the academy page, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, really bad.
Yeah,
really bad, like being mean to the kids and stuff. It was
100%.
So I'm quite intrigued to see how that game
Indonesian netizens are something else, huh? I mean, there's something different in the stands. There's something different with their phones as well.
Whatever, but it might create a nice little rivalry, I think, within this region between whether it be Philippine and Indonesian fans or on a club level.
100%.
So let's see what happens.
Definitely going to be something interesting. But enough about me. I'm excited about this opportunity to ask you all these questions, right?
Okay.
I mean, we posed the question just a couple of days ago, or a day ago, in fact.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm quite surprised that so many people have come out and asked these questions. They're very much interested to pick your brain about a few things. And like I said,
one of my friends asked about which meatball or chicken sub.
Right.
So
maybe we should start in the most serious fashion and just get that one off.
Yeah, chicken all the way. A lot of my friends are he's a friend of mine, but
chicken dippers or meatball subs.
Yeah, the meatball sub was when I played in college in America, and before away games we would always get a sandwich from the local deli, and meatball sub was one of the options, and it was very popular on the team bus, but I was always the chicken dippers.
Dippers.
Yeah, well, chicken parm really. It's more chicken parm, but so that just to get the main question out earlier. Right. Yeah, if I had a sandwich choice, it would not be the meat. It's too sloppy for me.
Where did you go? Where in the States did you play?
So basically, after I was released by Brighton, they were in the championship at the time. It was difficult to penetrate the first team, so I'd been there from 11 till I was 19, and the opportunity for me to progress at the time wasn't great. So I hadn't made any first team appearances. I'd made like 150 reserve team appearances or something like that.
Wow.
I just really wasn't able to bridge that gap. I wanted to change paths really. I think I felt like I needed a new challenge. I'd gone sort of trialing at various pro clubs, but I really wasn't that enthused about dropping down a couple of leagues and trying to work my way back up. It's just I wasn't really that excited about that prospect. I've seen a lot of players in the club who tried to drop down and never really recovered.
Right.
So I thought, look, I want to do something different. So I moved to America. I spoke to a bunch of different schools and then ended up going to a school in Springfield, Missouri, where a friend of mine who lived up the road from me, believe it or not, was the assistant coach, and he brought me there. They had a Division I soccer program. Drury University was the name of the place, and I played there for a year and a half. So I did 2 seasons, but 1.5 years, and then both the head coach and the assistant coach both left. The head coach went to Duke, which is obviously quite a famous sports institution.
Right.
And then my other coach went to Hartwick, which is in Oneonta, New York. So I then followed him, and then I moved to New York for my final 2 years.
Oh wow!
So that's where the New York deli and the meatball subs comes to the fore, and so I was there for 3.5 years. That's
before you went to the Philippines.
No, so I made my debut actually for the Philippines in 2004 Tiger Cup. So I moved to America in 2003.
Ah.
Does that sound about right? Does that timeline sound about right? Yeah, but I was in America at the time. I remember I had to leave school. So I left the last 6 weeks of my university at the time. And then I came out here and tried out for Coach Harris with the national team. And then I would do the training in the morning, like 6 to 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I'd go to the local Starbucks. I'd type up a few papers, send them back, and then go back in the afternoon and train again. So I was doing that pretty much from I think October time until December of that year. In between that period where I was in the Tiger Cup as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So juggling things already.
Always, mate. I'm always a juggler, mate. It should be in a circus, but yeah.
Okay, maybe we should start there then.
Okay.
I mean, you've had an opportunity to play under quite a few coaches on the national team setup, right? You had Coach Harris, you had Simon McMenemy.
Yeah.
I think there would have been somebody in between that too, right? I mean, Harris too.
Oh, loads.
Right. And then you had Thomas Dooley, you had Weiss, and eventually working alongside Scott Cooper and Sven Eriksson, right? That's a whole bunch
and Terry Butcher.
Terry Butcher. That's right, for a few days or whatever.
Never.
So there's a question here, I believe, about who would be among all the coaches that you've worked with, like who is the standout for you?
You know what? For me, the one who I owe the most to is Azkals Philippines. I came over as a 19, 20-year-old kid. I had a dream of wanting to play for the national team. He gave me the chance, and he gave me the chance to do that. So I owe a lot to him. Very mild-mannered, very measured in his approach, would mess with your head psychologically. I remember one time, I think we'd been in camp for like 5 weeks, and Anton, Ali and I were we were dead. So we were like, listen, I just need to get out. Just need to get out of the camp and just do something. I was like, God, this is torture. It's like prison. So we went out, didn't drink, didn't do anything. We went out just to see some different faces other than a bunch of men, in a dorm sort of thing. So we went out, came home at a reasonable hour, drove to 6 o'clock training, and Aris was like, "You went out last night, didn't you?" I said, "Well, I wasn't in the house at 10 o'clock, if that's what you mean, but I wasn't drinking." I said, "I'm fine to train." He said, "Okay, let's see how you train." Honest to God, I had the best training session ever. Yeah. Right? I swear. But the whole session, he was just on at me. And then at the end of the session, he was like, "Can't go out, Chris. You can't be doing that. You can't be doing that." He says, you can't be going out. It just gives the wrong impression to people. Yeah. It makes you seem like you're here for the wrong reasons, this and that, like here to represent the national team, this and that. And I was like, I was the best player in training, no doubt. I said, look, you can give me abuse, I can take it. Yeah. I said, but it's a bit far off the mark. But the point he was trying to make was valid. Like, I get what he was saying. I was young and just I needed to see someone different. Like, and I think he's probably evolved himself. You know what I mean? You can't treat adults in that way. I think he put it to. I was probably a harder player for him to deal with. I was probably a different breed of player that he'd had to coach. You know what I mean? Sure. Probably the line of player that he'd had before would be quite, would toe the line and maybe a little bit fearful. Yeah. Not that I would abuse him. I would never abuse his power at all. Like, I was always really respectful of him, his knowledge, how he went about his program. Tactically very astute. Scout reports were spot on. So probably him, just in terms of how. You know what? He would always give me a lot of confidence as well. He let me know that I was the main man. I always felt that. Even when people like Phil and James were there, we were obviously sort of talent-wise better players, I would say. Yeah. But he always knew and let me know that I was the heartbeat of the team. And although that evolved with time, then as time wore on, sort of Rob took over that mantle a little bit more. A bit older than me, and then he had a bit more sort of presence in that regard. Was probably a bit more involved than I was at that time as well when he first came into the mix. So in that scenario, my role sort of changed as I grew older. But with Aris, I always felt like I was his. I mean, people used to say I was his son. Aris' his son and that. But that for me, he was probably the most influential and the one I was able to. I felt most comfortable with. That being said, you know what? To be honest with you, I got along with all the coaches of the national team. Mm-hmm. Who did I have after Aris? We had was it Norman? I think maybe Norman Figueroa.
That's around the time.
It would have been Challenge, right? Yeah, Joven. Yeah, so it would have been Challenge Cup qualifiers down at Iloilo. So I don't think we had anyone after.
2003, 2004.
No, later. So this is later. That would have been 2006, something like that.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so I had Norman. I played under Norman. Really nice guy. Mm-hmm. Again, he was the one who made me feel really welcome because I know that he had a group of guys that he was like, no, these are my guys, including Joven, Boyet Canedo, these guys. He was like, but I really want to play you. And I came in the day before the first game. And I know a lot of, he was under pressure to play certain other players, but he then said, no, but I'm going to play you even though you just come in yesterday because I want you in the team. So I really respected him in that regard. He's another one who who was very good to me. He knew what I'd done previously, and he weighed that up when making his selection for the squad. So I really enjoyed, although it was a short period, I enjoyed working with him. He had great insight. It's a shame he didn't really last that long. He only did that one campaign. Aris then came back, so I worked under him again. Juan Cotillas, I played under Juan Cotillas for one campaign. I mean, that was interesting.
That's a classic. I mean, Juan Cotillas is like an old school, a different generation type of coach, right?
I mean, it's a shame really, because I don't know what's happened, but for some reason, I think because the situation with Maor Razen at Kaya, I think I don't have any problems with Maor at all, but there seemingly was some friction with him and me for whatever reason when he left, and I think obviously Maor was Cotillas's. He was Maor's mentor, wasn't he? Really? So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they had a very close relationship. So prior to him coming in, Coach Cotillas and I were fine. We would talk, and I played under him, and it was great.
Yeah.
And then post that, there seems to be. I know there's a little bit of chatter on social media sometimes, sometimes on about the show as well. But no, I mean, to play for, he had an incredible career. Coached at Atletico Madrid, right? So career-wise, his background is unbelievable. Very smart guy, very intelligent guy. Came from like a sort of scientific background, so he was very.
Wait a minute, we're talking about Maor?
Cotillas
coached in Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, he was at Atletico. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Check him out.
Okay.
Definitely coached or played. I think coached. Yeah, pretty sure he
All
coached
right.
there.
He's got a scientific background.
Yeah, I think he's a doctor of some sort. And then he was always like really keen on nutrition, and like I remember he dropped Jeffrey Lehman from a game once. So we were about to do the pre-game meeting, and we had lunch beforehand.
Yeah.
And Lehman had stacked his plate full of like rice and shrimp. I mean, it was like a mountain. Right? And then he stopped the meal, and then he did a 20-minute presentation on how you should eat, and then announced that he wasn't going to be in the starting 11.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he was. I mean, he was very. What's the right word? Flamboyant, I would say. Quite sort of, a little enigmatic, I guess, in some respects.
All right.
But I liked him. I liked playing under him. He was passionate, and he knew what he wanted, and very bullish and determined about how he went about his setting up his teams. Like, he had a very clear philosophy on how he wanted the games to be played, and I admire that. I like that. So I had played under him. Interesting character. And then we went into, would it have been some enemy era? No, Des Ballpin.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. So let me clear something up with Des. So Des and I were chatting in the build up. We went to Chinese Taipei for a 2010 camp of some description. We played Chinese Taipei.
All right.
And it was quite funny because we had three midfielders at the time: Manny Ott, Jason De Jong, and myself. And I'd always started, and so Manny was the young player coming through, so I just figured possibly Jason and I would be in the middle. And then the day before the game, he set up his team, and I wasn't in the starting 11. And then that's a lie. The day we arrived in Chinese Taipei, I was assigned a room with Yok Bissetti. I don't know if you remember Yok, very good player. And then Jason and Manny were rooming together.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, this is a bit suspect. And then we trained, and then basically the lineup was set. So I was on the bench, and then we played against the college team. I played in that one, and then at the airport, Des pulled me aside and he said, "Chris," I said, I think we're gonna go with some different options for the Suzuki Cup. This is in January, right? Suzuki Cup is in November, so I think we're probably gonna go with some different options for Suzuki Cup. So I said, I was like, oh, okay. I bet I make it. I said, I bet I make it.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I'm going to go with different options. I said, no. I said, yeah, I appreciate that. I wasn't rude about it. I wasn't. I said, no. Because I assumed that he would still be in charge, right? I said, okay. I said, listen. I said, I appreciate that's how you feel right now.
Yeah.
But I think I'll find a way to get back in the team. And he was like, okay, like I admire your persistence or your confidence or whatever. I can't remember what he said.
Yeah, confidence.
I said, no, I'll get back. I think I'll get back in the team. So he said, okay, thanks anyway. I'll be in touch. And then lo and behold, he didn't take the team thereafter. And then of course Simon McMenemy came in. So he was there for a period. We've talked about him, and obviously it's well documented what happened with stuff in 2010. For whatever reason, wasn't retained, and then we ushered in the Weiss era.
Yeah,
I mean, he was such a unique character, Weiss. But there were times when him and I got along really well. There were times he and I didn't get along.
Yeah,
like with any players, if you're not playing, you're not going to get. You try and fight your way back in the team, but you don't like the coach. It's simple as that.
For sure.
But all in all, I had a good relationship with him. I mean, even he came back for a friendly game with Mongolia against the Philippines.
Yeah.
We'd chat and talk and no problems. Like it was. Although he's an interesting character, probably haven't got long enough to describe all of the interesting, because we've got loads of questions to get through. But I think he was a little bit misrepresented sometimes in the media, because he came across very bullish.
Yeah.
Very bullish. But I genuinely felt like he cared about the players. He really cared about the players. That's the one thing I felt. And we always talk about this amongst ourselves. Even though if ever I wasn't in the lineup, very seldom when I look at a starting 11 and not go, but he's probably got 9 out of 11 right there. Even if I felt I should be playing, I always felt like he played his best team. And you could never argue with him with that. It was always like, okay, if he's played such and such over me or whatever, okay, fair enough. But I think that's a strong team. It's a strong lineup there, which I admired about him. I did admire that.
He's gone on to do decent, right? I mean, he's still moving around and still getting results.
He's still involved, getting results. So.
Punching up above the weight of the country that he's coaching, for sure.
So fair enough.
Yeah.
So he's got something there. After that was Dooley. And I'll tell you one story about Dooley, because again, he's another one I think has a little bit of misrepresentation. Although, again, we had our ups and downs, and there's one thing he did for me which I'll never forget. And these are the sorts of things that people don't really realise with coaches, and why I will always respect him. I'll always respect Thomas. I played a game. You might have called it, or you might have been there. We played Morocco in a game, and Simon McMenemy and I got into a.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the game?
I remember that.
Yeah, we got into it.
I've got images of that.
Yeah. So basically, long story short, he accused me of diving in the game, and I'd never dive. Never dive.
That's a strong one for you.
Yeah. And he kept talking during the game, and I think they needed a draw to qualify, and we needed to win or something, and it ended up being 1-1, and then as final whistle went, I lost the plot, mate. Absolutely lost it. Just when I embarrassed myself. Really, I just went over to him and just let him have it. But yeah, I've apologised since, because my behaviour was unacceptable. But yeah, in the heat of the moment, I was pretty upset. Anyway, we were due to fly to the Middle East that sort of the following day, but like 6 a.m. was the flight. So we had a call time for like 3 or something in BGC, or 4 a.m. So like we finished the game at like whatever, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And then we were supposed to go to, we're supposed to meet at in BGC at like 4 a.m. So my wife had just given birth to my son, so he was probably like a month old or something like that. And I got home, and I was obviously pretty agitated from the game. But then I started feeling uncomfortable about leaving my wife with my newborn on her own. And so it got to about 2 o'clock. I remember calling Rob Gear, and I was like, Rob, I said, I don't think I want to go. I said, I want to stay here with my kid. Yeah. And I said, and this is right before Suzuki Cup. So this was maybe a month or two before Suzuki Cup. So we went to the Middle East to play Nepal. And then we were due to come back, finish off the league, then go to Thailand, and then we would go to Suzuki Cup. Wow! So that was the schedule. So this would have been maybe October or something like that. But so quite close to the tournament. Yeah. So he said, you know what? Just speak to him. Rob said, just speak to him. I said, dude, he's quite. When it comes to family, he's quite good. Weiss was always more. It was always football first. It was always you had to prioritise that, and everything else was secondary. But Dooley was a little bit more. Family oriented, and he knew that family comes first. So I said, okay. So I met with him. So I drove in. I literally pulled up my car right by the bus and got out. I said, Thomas, can I have a word with you? And he said, yeah, what's up? He said, why are you parking the car behind the bus? Why did you drive here? 'Cause he knew where I lived. And he said, why did you drive here? He said, where's your bags? Like, why are you not in the tracksuit? I said, I need to have a word with you. I said, I just had a kid. And I said, I don't feel comfortable leaving my wife here with a newborn. And I really want to stay. I really want to stay. And I know you've got an important game coming up. And I know this is before the Suzuki Cup, this and that. But I have to stay. I said, if that means that I'm not going to be available for selection for the tournament, I said, so be it. I'll take whatever's coming to me. He said, but that's... And I said, I apologise, it's late notice. I said, I know you booked the flight and it's going to make probably you look bad.
Yeah.
And he came out and he said, listen, Chris, he said, family comes first. He said, no problem. He said, go home, be with your wife and kid. I'll take care of everything. He said, I'll let them know that you got injured, or you let them know that you had a minor injury or a slight problem. So he said, I'll cover for you. He said, no problem. He said, and you'll come with me to Thailand. He said, in the trip, which was in 2 weeks' time or something like that. He said, you come with me to Thailand. He said, no problem. He said, you got to do what's right with family. So when he said that, it gave me a new... Because actually, previously, he didn't play me in the final, the Challenge Cup final.
That's right.
And I was...
Against Palestine.
I was fuming, mate. Absolutely, like, head went big time. I know other players as well would voice their displeasure with me, and James also not featured in the final, right. Very vocally. And he came to me the next day and he apologised. He said, I should have played you. And although it didn't... At the time, I was still pissed off, but looking back, at least he was magnanimous enough to say, right, okay, I made a mistake there. I messed up, and I'll put my hands up for that one. And it doesn't give me the opportunity to play that game again, but I do have a lot of respect for him to do that. So I already had that, level of respect for him. But when he did that for me, it meant I was always, I always had a, I always felt that he was someone who had the player's best interests at heart. So whenever people give him, abuse for some of the decisions that he made, or some of the selections that he made, or sometimes he gets a little bit irate in a press conference, deep down I always felt that he's someone who had the player's best interests at heart, and he certainly demonstrated that with how he treated me.
The player personally,
personally,
you as a person.
No, as a person. Sorry, not as a yeah. That was always second. I think he always felt as though if you got a happy person, then you're going to get a good player.
Right.
He's going to play for you. So I always respected that about him, and that's why, when he asked me to join as his assistant, I jumped at the opportunity because I wanted to. One, I wanted to work with him. Two, I wanted to be with the team, and I felt I could help him. Mm-hmm. And I felt that he probably needed someone who could bridge the gap between the players and the staff, because he was just operating on his own at that time. Right. So I was probably a good foil for him in that respect, close enough to the players, but not so close that I was still in that camp. Do you know what I mean? Sure. I'd already been out the national team for probably three or so years by that point. But I had the relationship with Thomas, so... So
would you say the experience was... How would you describe the experience?
No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with him, I enjoyed working with him. He was different. Like Scott, for example, would let me be more involved. Yeah. So he would and let me have more probably say. Sven was the same actually. Would have me very involved. I mean, if you look at the games, he would often have me on the touchline, giving out information and stuff. Thomas was more. He needed someone more as a soundboard. Like, I think this. What do you think? And then you go and do it. Right. Whereas Scott was more of he would delegate. Sven even more so. Sven would delegate responsibilities, and then you would go and do your bit. Yeah, which was great. Scott did that also, but Scott was probably a bit more hands-on, I would say, than Sven. But yes. Obviously after Thomas, I worked with those two. Really enjoyed it. Both, like I said, gave me a lot of responsibility, allowed me to give my opinions on things, but probably because I'd seen a lot of these guys up close and personal for a much longer period of time than they had. Scott in particular gave me a lot of opportunities to voice my opinion, and would always take it on board, listen to my thoughts on how everything really, training, selection, tactical inputs. He was great with me with that. And what I would say about Scott is he's a fantastic manager. Really, really good man manager. Probably out of all the coaches I've worked with, the best man manager.
What makes you a good man manager?
I think just he's very attuned to the wants and needs of the group.
Yeah.
Right? I think very good at knowing what buttons to push.
Because you can't give everyone everything, right?
You can't give everyone everything. It's so true. But I think he's very good at, right, I need to do this with this person, I need to do this with this person.
Right.
Right?
This is the main button to push.
This is the main one. So is it maybe like I've got to kill him in public, you know, to get him riled up? Have I got to put my arm around him? Have I got to bring him into the room and discuss it with him?
Right.
He was a very good manager of the staff, I felt, as well. Very good with that. Took a very sort of business-like approach to things. So no, I really enjoyed working with him. I think when you look at the sort of the broad scope of all of the coaches, and then like when it's sort of coming back to me as well, like what you hope is you take the all those ingredients, and then you, within your own experiences, then shape yourself into the coach that you want to be, based on the philosophy and based on the experiences that you've had either working with or playing under those coaches.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been a pleasure. I think I've had a great crop of coaches that I've either played under or worked with. And I've taken everything from both positive and negative from all the coaches that I've worked with.
Shout out to Pat Mercado. Sent out a message. I was actually asking for Thomas Dooley specifically about your assessment of him and your feedback of him, because he's not been in the limelight at all lately, although he has signed for a Vietnamese club quite recently. Right?
So I spoke with him a few weeks ago.
I suppose it was because, you know, Thomas Dooley perhaps kind of got swept aside after leading the team to the Asian Cup. You know, he got us to the dance, never got to the dance himself. You know what I mean? He got us qualified, but he was asked to leave prior to getting onto that big stage. So I suppose a lot of people have been left with a feeling of what if Dooley was given the opportunity to work and continue in the Asian Cup level. Do you think it was the right choice though to perhaps move on from Coach Thomas and add a little bit of freshness with Scott and the rest of the gang?
Well, I mean that's a really hard question to answer, because obviously initially it was going to be Terry Butcher come in. So the way in which the sort of timeline worked was obviously, I mean, it was, the Dooley situation was not resolved, I guess, contractually or so he wasn't offered a new contract. And then they had the Terry Butcher situation, and then Scott came in. So none of that was obviously part of the plan, because Scott was supposed to be coming in just as a consultant initially. Yeah. And then obviously when we went to the Middle East and did 2 camps and did really well, there was the feeling that we were moving towards something with the Suzuki Cup. And then obviously Sven Cup coming in was like, it was, the timing of it was just a little bit obscure, because it was right before the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, literally like maybe 1 or 2 weeks before the tournament that he came in.
Was it even a few weeks?
Yeah, it was something like that. I forget the timeline.
Like a few days.
I forget the timeline, which is difficult for anyone. Doesn't matter. Like obviously he's coached at the highest level. You know, one of the most revered football coaches, certainly in recent memory.
Yeah.
You know.
Was that strange working with him?
Surreal. Yeah, not strange, surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at him when I was a kid and
exactly.
I got his book at Christmas and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And he's just like, especially in England, you probably don't realise here, but in England he was an iconic figure.
That's right. Like, he was coach for a while, right?
Yeah, and arguably the best England team ever. I mean, if you look at the team that he had, I mean, they probably had 7 or 8 world-class players.
Right.
In that team, like, I mean, I could probably name the team now. Seaman in goal, Ashley Cole left back, Sol Campbell, Rio Ferdinand, Gary Neville, Paul Scholes, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, David Beckham, Michael Owen.
It's a ridiculous team.
Heskey would have been in that group. Wayne Rooney. Like some of the players he had, just unbelievable. So like, yeah, all of a sudden, then you're working alongside him, and he's asking you for opinions on this, that, and the other. It's like, bloody hell, this is weird. So, I mean, we're kind of going off topic a little bit because you asked, I don't know. I mean, he probably deserved the chance. You know what I mean? It's harsh because if you get a team to a major tournament,
yeah,
you know, if it was me, I would love to have an opportunity to see it all the way through.
Sure.
But obviously, the situation with Thomas was just, yeah, it became untenable at the time. It was just difficult. I think, you know, like whether it be with management or with the federation, or you know that. So it just made it difficult. The situation you could feel was palpable, right, between the sides, because obviously Thomas had certain things that he wanted, wasn't getting. Yeah, then obviously if that rubs certain people the wrong way, yeah, then it's going to create that kind of
what I had heard
vacuum.
The rumor was that, you know, like the squad wasn't as how should you say, as united under him. I'm going
to stop you there, right? Yeah. This is the God's honest truth, because I don't know what it was like. Because you can hear all sorts of stuff, sure, right? I don't know what it was like in the build up to that, right? But I know that when Thomas came to me, that was my remit, was to try to be that link between the group, right? I remember at the end of that camp, I think even Phil Younghusband said on his podcast when he came on that it was one of the best camps that he'd been on.
Oh wow!
That period between. So we played 2 games. We played Fiji and then we played Tajikistan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember him saying that it's been brilliant. And then even Thomas was like, "This is one of the best preparations for a camp we've had."
Interesting.
And then we had 2 wins. So I don't know. If anyone can manufacture any rumor, and then it all of a sudden becomes like, "Oh yeah, there's discontent within the camp, or he's lost the dressing room, or whatever." Like for me, I can only judge it on based on what I saw when I came through the door. And the boys were maybe they were buzzing because it was the Asian Cup qualifiers.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So you knew what was at stake. But I didn't get that feeling. I from when I was there, and their interactions with me, yeah, certainly was a camp that was fully focused on qualifying for Asian Cup. So,
all right. So yeah. Thomas, it's actually pretty. It's a much more glowing assessment of him than what you would hear on the street. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people throwing out a lot of dirt and saying that, you know, things were falling apart at that time, and perhaps it made the transition to accepting the new coach a little bit easier.
I feel sorry for him though. I mean, he had no assistant. Yeah. No assistant coach. The goalkeeper coach had just come in, Steve Marcella. Yeah. For I think the Nepal game. I mean, it's bloody hard to, to be a one-man band. And I'm guessing he's asking for stuff. He wants certain things to be, done in a certain way. And if things aren't adhered to, it's like, well, am I banging my head against a brick wall here? Sure. But then, of course, then you're going to rub other people the wrong way if you express your discontent. Yeah, yeah. And then obviously that's when perhaps there is friction. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then of course, if there's going to be friction, then things are going to be said.
It's a lot more nuanced way of thinking about it, you know. It's a nice perspective to be able to have.
So all in all, honestly, I mean, I've had my differences with coaches in the past I played with, but generally speaking, I can honestly say I could take away something from all of the coaches that I work with.
Let's go through a few more of the quick questions.
Go on in.
Yeah, something where we don't have to dive so deep, right?
I'm just waffling on.
Yeah, thanks anyway to Pat Mercado for a question on Coach Thomas Dooley. Yeah. This one's from Jet Pampolina, who's saying, you're definitely English. You grew up in England most of your life. You're English as English can be, but what part of you or trait do you feel is distinctly Pinoy?
My love for chicken adobo.
Yeah. Food.
Yeah, I think food. Because I think, especially growing up in England, it's hard. Where I grew up in England, Lewis, which if you look on a map is near Brighton, Southeast England is. I mean, the town I lived in was, it was so white. It's unbelievable. It's so white. I mean, I could count on one hand the amount of kids who weren't white in my grade. So we had 1,500 kids in my school, my high school. So let's say 250 in my grade.
Wow.
Maybe I can probably name you. I can think of I can see the faces and the names of the kids that weren't white. So, you know, my mum wouldn't talk to us in Filipino. We didn't have any other Filipino friends. We weren't, you know, if you grew up in like a London, for example, you might still be immersed in the culture a little bit more. Go to a Filipino restaurant or whatever. Like all my relatives who live in New York or LA, they all speak Tagalog. You know, they go around to their cousins' houses. Like we just didn't have that. Yeah. So you kind of lose that element when you grow up. It's pre-internet age, so you know we wouldn't really converse or see them on pictures or whatever on Facebook, or you know, so all of that stuff is lost. So you're just in your own little world. So you don't really have much of an opportunity to interact with your Filipino roots. Food was the one way in which we could do it. Right, so my mum would cook certain dishes, and then, you know, sometimes we go to an Asian market or whatever, and then you'd find food that would be that way. Ironically, my wife cooks really good chicken adobo.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, really good now. So probably food, if I'm being if I'm being really honest, food is probably the one way in which I could connect.
So your appetite is Filipino, huh?
My brother has some ones, but they're like the really bad traits. Lateness, shocking driver. Right, so he's got some of those ones as well, but Jet's kid is in my academy, and he's a neighbour. So I'll think about it. I'll think about that one again, and I'll give him a more maybe something more personal to me. But off the top of my head, they're the ones that come to me.
Definitely the food, huh?
Food, yeah.
Nosnoid Luap is saying that he's got a kid, daughter Malia, who plays for a GPS. Under 10 club?
Yeah, I think it's North American, Canadian American, I think that one.
And she wants to play for the Philippine national team at some point. Yeah. She is playing in Boston, travel team in Boston. You know, what's the best advice for somebody who has that sort of ambition, I suppose?
Okay, so there's a few here for me. If you're under the age of 10 for this kid, just have fun.
Okay, yeah.
Just have fun.
Yeah.
Right? Have them fall in love with the ball, fall in love with the game. Don't try to coach them too much. Just encourage them to be out, playing, recreationally, training on their own, training with friends. Just enjoy the game, because I think even Neil said on his episode, there's plenty of time for it to get super serious.
Sure.
Right? There's plenty of time for that if you really want to do that, right? But at that age, just have fun. Just have fun. Don't take anything too serious. You know, I'm in a situation now where I think my son's not bad. He's 5. He's pretty good. He loves the game. He's on at me about going to practice all the time. And I have to tell him, no practice today. You need to go and do something else. We'll go swimming or play basketball or go to the soft play, whatever. You know, just things that will develop you as a kid and as a boy. You know, it doesn't. I'm very anxious, and I see it a lot here. Yeah, a lot with Filipino parents. Yeah, what do I have to do to make my kid a professional? How old's your kid? 7. Right? Probably back the hell off is the first thing you should do. Right?
Yeah. Settle down.
Right? Settle down. I was really, you know what? And I say this with my parents all the time. I was very fortunate. I had a dad who, from the get-go, he knew that I was passionate about football, knew that I was ambitious, knew that all I wanted to do was be a professional footballer.
Yeah.
But did not drive that at all. Especially as a young kid. Did not drive that at all. So didn't force me into playing, didn't force me into doing anything. Sometimes he might push me or nudge me. So I remember being like maybe 8 or 9, maybe a bit older. And I remember I would spend a little bit too much time watching TV. Right. And then he'd be
as we all did.
As you all do, yeah, as you all do. And some people were in front of the video games or whatever, but that wasn't me. I was just in front of the TV. And he'd just be like, you know, hey, you know, maybe you should be out playing a bit of football. Maybe you should be practicing your juggling.
Yeah.
You know, how many juggles can you do now? I can do 100. Okay, it's not bad. Then you just leave me, you know what I mean? And I'd just stew it.
Let that simmer.
Yeah, let it simmer for a bit. I remember one time, right? He'd be quite clever though. I remember one time he brought home. There's a football program called Curva, It's like a coaching school, and he got a video. He got a video of it, and then it would feature like kids all over the world from these Clover schools doing certain drills. And one of them, they went to Ajax and they were doing these stuff. They were doing finishing, and these kids were about 11, and I must have been about 11 at the time.
Yeah.
And these kids are smashing the ball like unbelievable. And I'm thinking at 11, like I'm pretty good for like an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
And then he put it on, and he go, "Yeah, your age." Do you know what I mean? But he was never like, and he just leave it, because then it's up to you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If I treat that like so, and just shrug it off, or you can go out and be like, okay, well, maybe I need to be a bit better with my finishing. Then you go out and work on it. Do you know what I mean? He was quite clever like that, but he was never one to sort of, give advice or bully me or get in the car. I remember one kid. This is a true story. There was a kid in my club who we must have been maybe 9, and he said, "Chris, when you get in the car," he said, "does your dad ever say anything to you after a game?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Does he say anything to me after a game?" He says, "Oh, when I get in the car after the game, he's telling me, oh, you were crap. You did this bad, you did that bad," and I was like, "No, Dad never does that ever. We don't ever talk. We hardly even talk about it. Like, oh, how was the game today? What do you think? Yeah, it was good. All right, let's just, we'll go home, eat lunch, and then go out this afternoon, whatever, ride a bike." Or
right.
I'm really nervous about trying to put too much pressure on kids too early, right? Because if they really want to do it, they'll do it themselves.
Right.
They'll do it themselves. They'll go out and they'll train on their own. One thing that's a problem about being in the Philippines, I'm really going off topic with this question, but is the hardest thing though is I get loads of parents telling me, "My kid loves football."
Right.
Loves football.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Or I get parents be like, "My kid's playing football all the time." Okay. When I sit down and actually talk to that parent and be like, "Talk to me about your football schedule," like how many times? Well, he trains twice a week and then plays a game on a Sunday. Right? Okay. All right. Okay. So I said, listen, and what I'm trying to put into these guys' perspective is probably on the surface, that's a lot based on your other activities you've got going on. You're probably doing, I don't know, piano or basketball or swimming or I don't know, Lego class. These are the things my son has Lego class.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
So these are sort of things that are available to these kids these days, right?
Times are changing.
But I'm thinking to myself, right, this would be my daily schedule, right? So let's say if you start school at 8:30, I might get to school 8:15, right? I might get to school 8:15. I'll play probably with a tennis ball 15 minutes before we go into class. That might be me just banging a ball against the wall. So it's 15 minutes of training right there. Go into the class, come back out of break, 11 to 11:30. Just play football. Another 30 minutes. That's 45 minutes football already before lunchtime. We'll come out again at lunch. So let's say it's 12 till 1. Right, let's say we get an hour for lunch. 12 till 1. Playing football again. So that's an hour and 45 minutes already. Finish school at 3:15. Probably hang around playing the playground for another 15 minutes. Right?
Yeah.
What's that, 2 hours? I'm losing track. 2 hours of football already, and it's not even 4 o'clock yet.
Yeah.
Right? Then I'll probably go and train with my club maybe 2-3 times a week. So that's another hour and a half.
Wow.
Right? And that's every day. So what the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of these kids, I think that I've experienced up until the age of probably 6, 7, I look at the kids and I'm like, they're amazing. You go and take them to the pitch in England, 7 years old, the same. There's no difference. Very little difference, I would imagine. Very little difference. I'm going to go back with my son and I've signed him up to go and play a few sessions. I'm intrigued to see.
Yeah.
But from my understanding, I watched clips of some training sessions of guys who run academies in the UK, US, whatever. There's no difference. But what I see in difference is when you aggregate that amount of training time over the months and the years from the ages of 7 to 11, you just can't catch that up. It's very difficult for you to catch up if you're based here.
Right.
So once you get to 11, I see a vast difference. Like I looked at my brother's under 13 team. They won the national championship in America, and I look at them versus our under 13s who are a very good team.
Not the same.
It's different. It's very different, and that's not even like at a pro academy level. Let's say in the UK. So let's assume that's another jump, another level up.
So it's about your proximity to the game all throughout the day, all throughout
the day. Then you're going to go home. You're going to put Sky Sports on, and then it's just you're inundated with that, right? Then you might play a video game. It's probably going to be FIFA. If you're going to play a video game, then you might watch the game on the TV from 7 to 8:30.
Yeah, you're living, breathing football.
You're living it.
Yeah.
So when someone says, "Oh, yeah, my kid, he lives, drinks, breathes it,"
and
you can't do it. You know, the billboards on EDSA aren't lined with football stars. You know, the magazines, the newspapers are not lined with football players.
So if the question was, if you have a kid who you feel like is interested or showing signs of interest in wanting to play for the national team, you want to sort of like stoke that fire a little bit. Essentially, it's like, all right, lay off. First of all, don't pressure that person.
Yeah, if the kid's young, if they're of age, like I'm saying, if you're starting to get to 12 to 16 kind of period, I think that's when you're starting to, obviously, football is my number one sport. Yeah, this is what I'm focused on. This is what I want to be. Because I was like that at that age. Yeah, I wanted to be a footballer.
So you just have to sort of nurture an environment where they can, you know, live and breathe it.
Absolutely,
on a regular basis.
And that's really tough. Yeah, because you also don't want to overload them with. It feels manufactured then if you do it yourself. Right. Right. So, and then there's the more sort of logistical questions. So I would start to reach out to people within the football community. So people within the federation. So let's say if they're based in the US, is it a girl? Is it a young girl?
Yeah, Malia.
Yeah, so perfect. I mean, if there's some youth tryouts coming up for like the under 14s or whatever, and this has happened with a lot of girls and boys, to be honest. Yeah. So they'll come over for a camp. You know, they'll do the 2 weeks or whatever, at least be on the radar. You know, my mum back in the day, if you want to know how we ended up going on, my mum, this is how crazy football is. My mum came back for a funeral of my grandmother, so her mother, and stayed with my aunt in Pasig. Okay. And it was literally around the corner from the Football Federation office. Oh. Literally around the corner.
Oh, wow.
So she walked up, went up the stairs. I don't know if you remember the old PFF offices, dingy offices. And she was like, knocked on the door.
It's still the same one. Isn't it?
No, that's a different one. Right around the corner from that. Oh, yeah. It was in Ultra. And then, knocked on the door, basically. Like, I got 3 boys. Yeah. 3 boys. And then, okay, here's the email address of, and then gave me Coach Aris's information. And then I emailed him later on that year. And that's how it ended up.
Your mom's awesome.
Yeah, so that's it. So that's that. So I would, then just, if the kid is older, so between the ages of probably 12 to 16, then I would start to make, if you feel as though if they're playing at a good level in the US, make contact with the federation and then see if she can join. Yeah, see if she can join maybe a youth national tryout, something like that. And try to at least get on the radar with the national team program. I hope that helps. Yeah.
That was no Snoid Luap.
Okay.
Yeah. Daryl Rueda was gonna ask you about the Kaya tryouts. Kaya Academy is currently holding tryouts, and what qualities are you looking for in players who are trying out, especially for the older age groups?
Okay, easy. This sounds like I'm plugging the tryouts.
Nah.
I think the tryouts for the U15s and 30s was yesterday. If he's U17, it's too late. The dates were already posted weeks or months in advance on the Instagram and Facebook pages, so check it out. And what qualities are we looking for? Yeah. You know what? First of all, looking for people to be on time. Right, that would be a good start. You know what? I was having a conversation with a parent the other day. First of all, we're looking for good people.
Yeah.
Right? We are looking for good people. So, you could be the best player in the world, but if you're not the right fit culturally for us, it's not going to work out. Obviously, it's hard to tell and gauge that from a tryout. But, in order for you to be in the shop window, you got to show up for the tryout. So,
for sure.
Check on the page. But, attributes. We've got a manual, right? I've spoken about that with Alvin. We put out a manual. So if you play in a certain position, check out the coaching manual, and there's a list. There's a list of characteristics.
Where is that available?
Facebook page. It's pinned. It's at the top.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Kai FC Academy Facebook page pinned at the top.
Yeah.
The website kaifcacademy.com on the resources page.
Yeah.
It's got coaching resources page. It's got coaching manual, session plans. If you're a coach, if you're a player, take it, steal it. Yeah. I've got no problems putting it up there for people to replicate. Yeah. So that's if you're looking for characteristics of players, that's what we're after, and it's a detailed one for the academy because we're looking for different things compared to other clubs. It's on there, so check it out.
There's a few questions about youth coaching.
Yeah.
And your obviously your experience being a youth director and what you feel as if youth national programs should be. Let's put a pin in that real quick, all right?
Yeah.
I want to go over to Ryan Phoenix's question, sent over one, and asking about how you were quite young when you decided to retire as a player. What age was that?
31, 32.
31, 32.
I just turned 32, I think.
You decided to focus on coaching, and he was wanting to know what were the motivations behind that. And looking back now, a few years on, is there anything that you would have changed?
First of all, he needs to come on the show.
True.
I've asked him.
Yeah.
He flaked.
Is that right?
Yeah, Ryan.
No,
So. But he's a good man, Ryan.
We'll rectify that.
Yeah,
we'll rectify
good
that.
man. So I'll answer, and then you come on the show. I toy with it all the time.
Until now.
Yeah. I look at the league now, and I know I could still play. Funny story. When I was with the national team, coaching under specifically Sven, I would join in training all the time. I was all right. I could still hang with those boys. I'm still passionate about football. So there's still a part of me, but maybe that will never die. I'll probably be 50 and still staying the same.
Yeah.
So part of that is probably just my competitive nature, thinking, I could still do it.
Yeah.
Because I struggle to get up the stairs now. I mean, I get out of breath playing with my kid and get stiff. So I'm supposed to be playing a game on Monday with the parents against the kids, our older kids. So we'll see how I get on there. But I feel deep down that I could still play at this level comfortably. So part of me is I wish I continued. Playing. I would love to have played in the AFC Cup. I would love to have played in that. Obviously, I was player coach when we won it. So
in 2015, you were already player coach.
Player coach, yeah.
2016, you coached that campaign in the AFC Cup. So that was one of the motivations for you to make a decision.
So let me backtrack a little bit. I'm going to go right to the beginning when I came to Kaya. The UFL, obviously, it'd been professionalised for a couple of years at that point. But the year I came, which was 2013, I felt I could really feel the buzz. Like everyone, like people were really building their lineups. So there were some big names coming back to the Philippines, and then year on year, it seemed to be getting more and more professional, more money. Things were getting better. So when I first came, I looked at our club and I was like, right, we got a good thing going here. But one of the issues that I felt happened was, so my first 4 weeks was under Maor, then he left. He quit, citing various issues. So there was that issue. Then Dave came in. Perkovic, who, great coach, learnt a lot from him. Very different to what I'd experienced before, different philosophy, different way of playing, but one that I really enjoyed playing in. But then he left, so he was only there for a year and a half. And in between Maor and Dave, I took the team for a few games, coached the team. Dave then left, and then before Adam Reiki came in, I then took the team again, got us to the Charity Cup final. I don't know if you remember that. Basically, and took a bunch of the kids from the academy plus some stragglers from the first team and got us all the way to the final. And again, I think my stock sort of rose a little bit just with that, because I was playing with some pretty young. I think I played 3 or 4 15-year-olds in that team.
Oh wow!
So yeah, Rocky Plaza.
That's right.
Nina Herrera, Carlitos Matai, all those kids all came through. Paing, Sagawa played, bunch of them. And even like Emilio Palaez came in and played. Like all kids from the academy. And then so yeah, we did all right with them. Got to the final, lost the final to Global, but still it was a good achievement. Riki came in, he also left mid-season, and then I took us. So then that's when I took us for the Cup group stage, which we smashed. We had a fairly easy group, but from right before when the draw was made, I said, right, we got to top the group. I wanted to avoid Ceres in the semis, so I said we got to top the group, and we had an easy group. So I was like, right, we got to try and run up the scoreboard every game. So we went in and absolutely annihilated everyone. So we got the number 1 seed, so we avoided Ceres.
Louis Clark was just new. Was that the one?
Yeah, that was his first year.
Yeah.
That was his first
scored
year.
A lot of goals that.
That was his first year. So that was good. So we qualified for the cup. Then Fabian Lewis came in.
That's right.
Right. Then Fabian Lewis came in. Then he left. Obviously, then took over for the cup proper knockout phase. Won the cup. It was such a tumultuous period. So I'd been playing for like 3 years, and yet I'd had 4 different interim stints. We'd had 5 coaches, and I was like, I don't trust anyone else to do it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what happens if someone comes in? I've done a lot of groundwork, I feel, in getting us to this point as a player, and then obviously then you do it as a coach. You know, so I've got us to at what I felt was the pinnacle for the club moving forward. Was, you know, getting us to the AFC Cup was really, that's what the club was about.
Yeah.
Right. And it is about, and it's still really what. I don't know if Sarah's have aspirations of qualifying for the Champions League, but I think that would be tough. You know, I think qualifying for the AFC Cup and then progressing through that competition is really what we should be aiming for, certainly in the short medium term. So I felt, you know, I'm the man to do it for sure. I was really confident in my ability, and I didn't think anyone else could do the job as good as me. So I thought I'd do it. What I learned along the way is I made a lot of mistakes my first year. Issues and managing up, managing down with the players. Still probably having my player hat on. You know, treating people as I would as I did as a player. So, for example, I would berate people on the pitch, but you couldn't really say much because if I told you to go and do something, you couldn't answer me back because I'd be doing it.
Yeah.
Right. So if I said go and close him down, run 60 yards to go and, you know, close the space. Yeah. I would do it. So no one would turn around and go, oh yeah, but you're walking around. It was never the case. No one was ever gonna. No one would ever accuse me of not putting in the work. So that gave me a certain amount of leverage if I wanted to hand out instructions. Yeah. Instructions. But as a coach, you don't have that. You need to be more skilled in how you deliver your message. And I hadn't acquired that. And it takes time to evolve. So I got by. And I listened to a really interesting podcast the other day. What this coach was saying was a lot of younger coaches feel like they have to prove themselves tactically and also through authority, right? Because there's already that assumption that too young for the job. Or with me, Chris is still in sort of player mode. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because he still, which was actually true, but I wanted to distance myself from Chris the player and Chris the coach. So I went over the top. I was too vicious, I think, in terms of how I would deliver a lot of my messages. I was too aggressive, which is strange because it's not really my nature. It's more, I think I should have been more personable and used my softer skills to cultivate the relationships, which I got better at as I went through my 3 years. Yeah. And ultimately, I think it showed in the results, because obviously in our last year, excuse me, we won a domestic cup competition. I felt that year, barring a couple of obscure performances, I felt for many periods of that league campaign we were the best team. Yeah. I actually felt we were the best team in that league. Series is a difficult juggernaut to compete with in general, so we have to also keep that very much in mind. But I felt like we were the best team, and I think a lot of that was how I managed that group that last year. I felt I managed that group a lot better. But I felt in the beginning I was I went too far the other way, too authoritarian, right. I was too focused on things that were tactical, when really I should have been focusing more on cultivating relationships with the players. Because I think the relationship game it doesn't really matter if you are tactically the best coach, if you have the best methodology, if you have the game plan that's perfect. If the players don't want to run for you, they won't run for you. Right. And one of the things that I stood out was as I got older and as I've gone through the coaching journey and I've learned more about coaching, I think I'm fairly studious. I listen to a lot of podcasts, speak to a lot of people, about the game. I read. I'm very diligent about reading. So the more information that I acquire, the more I think back to that time as a coach, and then sort of reflect and think, I wish I'd done it differently. Like one of the things that was really interesting, and if you read it in my coaching manual, I talk about as a coach, a lot of things are delivered in moments. So your influence is never neutral. Right, it's either positive or negative. It's never one. It's never in the middle. It's either one or the other. And I said, I can guarantee you, and you're an athlete yourself. I bet you're the same. If I ask you to think about a time when a coach has said something to you, one, that has had a massive negative impact on you.
Yeah.
I guarantee you can think of one. And I guarantee on the flip side, you can think back to a moment where a coach has said something that has been so powerful that it's completely changed your perspective or your output in a particular sport.
Sure.
And one thing that's quite interesting off of those two ends of the scale is, although that's the case for you, it's memorable, both positive and negative. For those coaches who delivered them, they'll probably throw away comments.
Right.
And they probably don't remember them.
Yeah.
You probably don't remember them.
That's right.
Right? So you've got to be so careful with the words that you choose as a coach. So the example I gave was I delivered this as a presentation to my coaches, and Freddie was in the room, Alfred Osai.
Yeah.
Who's obviously played for me and he coaches with me. And I said to him, Freddie, I guarantee you can think of one. And I guarantee I'm going to be in one of them, aren't I? He said, yeah. I said, go on, share it with the group then. Share it with the group.
Yeah.
And he said, Balestier at home. Right? Didn't say anything.
Yeah.
He has another shot about 5 minutes later, blazes it over the bar. What do I say to him?
You must have had a shout.
Yeah.
Yeah, a proper one.
If you've got kids in the car, put the earphone or turn the volume down. I said, well, we're live, aren't we? So I won't say it. I said, what the F was that?
Yeah.
Freddie, what the F was that? So it made me think. I'm like, I didn't impact him positively.
Yeah, for sure.
I made him feel like a complete idiot.
Yeah.
In front of his friends, family.
And his students, essentially.
His students,
right? Yeah.
Right? His students.
His players. Yeah.
Right? I haven't given him any tactical information. I haven't told him, like, get your head over the ball.
Yeah.
Aim, I don't know. Aim for the goal seems a bit obvious, right? But, like, the keeper was small. He was undersized, the Balestier keeper, right? Do you know what I mean? So, I could have highlighted that as a point of reference, but didn't. I just bollocked him in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And it stayed with him. And even though that was like 5 years ago, he still remembers that. And it'll probably stay with him forever.
Yeah.
And I have to live with that. You know what I mean? I have to live with that. And his kids that I've probably said stuff to, or his players that other players that I've said stuff to, that are probably the same.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I know there's kids that I've impacted positively. Well, I hope so anyway. Otherwise I'm doing my job wrong. But I think coaches have to be really careful with how they speak, especially youth coaches.
Yeah.
Because, there's so much impact that you can have.
Here's the funny thing. We started this question and what you're talking about based on the question whether or not you regretted leaving as early as you did. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And as you can see, there's been, a lot of learning that was involved in your trajectory as a coach after leaving what you would have described as a body that is still capable of playing at this level, even 3 years down the road, right? But what I'm gathering from what you're saying is that you're very astute at being able to analyze and pick what you did do correctly and incorrectly, which is not as common as you'd think it is, right? I mean, you're very critical, but yet, how should you say, there's a certain dispassionate or disconnection from your correct and wrong actions. You know what I mean? Like you see both. Mm-hmm. You see both what you did correctly and what you did incorrectly. Yeah. And from what I understand in your development as a coach from 2016 onward to 2017 and 2018, which I was a part of, we were speaking about your change in approach. Yeah. And that you were learning quickly how to adjust your approach in that regard. So while there are, I feel like, a few regrets that you could still play, you wouldn't be where you are as a coach right now if you didn't start that early.
That's 100% true.
And didn't make those same mistakes. Yeah. Right? I mean, your capability to understand the impact of your words now is different as what it would have been if you had retired just now, right? Then you would have to still make those mistakes. So then the question is still, do you regret leaving the game as early as you did, or do you feel as if obviously that fire is going to be there? You're an athlete. I know individuals who have a hard time staying away from the game, and that's common. That was your life for so long. But do you feel as if the impact that you create as a coach right now would be surpassed by you being a player still?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I really struggle with it. I get what you're saying, and you're 100% right. I obviously would not be at this point in my coaching development and my coaching journey had I have continued to play up until this point. But would it just be 3 years down the line? So would that be 3 years' time? I would just be at this point now. Had I have played another 3 years? It's devil's advocate, right? I don't know. Yeah, we don't know.
It's like but I feel as if it compounds, right? Your learning process compounds. Like you as an individual who already understands this now, your acceleration as a coach is going to be different, as opposed to you just learning it now. You know what I mean? Like the whole idea of learning what to say, learning how to deliver it, learning how to distance yourself as a player from the rest of the squad that you played with. Yeah, which is a strange dynamic that this guy was just playing alongside me and now he's telling me off and I have to agree with him because now he's my coach. All those things. And learning Asian Cup, for example, you wouldn't have gone to the Asian Cup if it wasn't, true. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have coached for this man. You wouldn't have had these experiences if you had not stepped away.
That's very true.
Right? I mean, and listening to your conversation with Alvin, obviously didn't get a chance to sit down with you guys on that one, but you guys are both coaches and you guys have a level of understanding of what it takes. Yeah. And sort of assessing your players, but also what systems are in place that make your job a little bit more difficult. There's a sense of perspective that is given to you or you garner based on stepping away as a player and not being so focused on what do I eat today? How do I get my body on point for tomorrow? Those are the things that encompass your mind.
But I miss
when you're
that.
A player. I'm sure you do.
I miss that. That's actually an element that I miss. I miss the competitive nature of it. And not even the games. I miss the day to day. I was a good trainer. Yeah. Training was for me. I would try to win the day every day. Yeah. Training every day. I would always, if the game at the end or the possession boxes, whatever it would be, I wouldn't go in the middle. Would want to win every game. So that I miss the competitive element. If I could go back and do it again and know what I know, I would carry on playing, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, Ryan. Thank you for your question.
Come on the show, Ryan. Don't be a stranger.
All right.
You're all right. You're coughing a lot, mate. What's going on?
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks of SEA Games. I apologize for everybody who's listening.
You've been doing
just like talking way too much.
Yeah. I'm trying my best here.
Yeah. Apologize for everybody who's listening to me hawking and coughing. All right, here. If you were a national youth team coach, Brando Barambado, Barambado, nice last name, all right? If you were given the chance to be the program director of the national youth teams, would you accept the challenge?
In many ways, it's the dream job for me.
If you want to know why that would be Chris Greatwich's dream job, then definitely tune in to part 2 of Chris Greatwich's Ask Me Anything. He goes through a whole bunch more of your questions, and it's a fun conversation to have. So definitely tune into that. And if you like the content that we provide here on Across the Line, subscribe to our YouTube page or Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to rate and review. And if you have any comments, any questions, any suggestions that you have, please hit us up on our social media pages on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. We'd love to start a conversation with you. All right? Catch you next time on the next Football Friday.